Welcome to Maintenance Matters, a podcast by Marshall Institute, capturing conversations with industrial maintenance and reliability professionals about their successes, challenges, and stories. Enjoy the episode.
Hello, this is Greg Folts, President and CEO of Marshall Institute, and we're just continuing to interview practitioners in the maintenance and reliability field. Today I've got Chuck Gaskins of Plymouth Tube, and he's going to share some of his insights with us as we get to spend a little bit of time with him. Chuck, so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, your title, company, kind of facility that you work at. Just give us a little background.
Sure, be glad to. And thanks for the opportunity to be able to speak as well. But again, Chuck Gaskins, I'm Senior Maintenance and Manager for Plymouth Tube Company in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. I've been with this company just a little over a year, but I've been in maintenance for almost 30, or probably around 30 this year. So it's been an interesting ride. Started out just working as a technician on the floor, helped set up 2 or 3 storerooms, and then moved into a planner scheduler role, moved into couple maintenance manager roles, and then also supervision. Then before I took the job here at Plymouth, I was a corporate reliability leader for food industry, and had 16 plants that dealt with on a regular basis all across the U.S. and in Canada. So it's been an interesting journey, and so we've been going on and learning a lot of the reliability efforts along the way.
Excellent. I know you've been involved with our maintenance and reliability management diploma through NC State. And that's how I kind of got to know you, was through the MRM Advisory Council and the conference. So it's been a little while, but tell us a little bit about how why you got into maintenance, and it sounds like it was as a technician. How did that your early career develop?
Okay, well, actually, when I started off way back, I was in construction, and that's where my dad worked, and that's sort of where I fell in line, was working in that area. But then construction of business began to drop out, and I was working out in the cold weather all the time, and I got to thinking, hey, we could go into a factory work and wouldn't be as cold all the time. Well, little did I know that there's not all that. The caveat to that is, as you would think that it would be, but that's sort of how I got into industrial, and I was just a production worker, and from that I just went on to a company that was located close to my hometown, and I went in the door there as a just working on an assembly line, and it was a new startup company. And actually, there was a person there that worked with my dad on construction, and he was the maintenance manager at the time, and they were going to move a line, and he asked me if I would help, and on the weekend to do that. And so I joined in and helped him because, like I said, he knew my dad and everything. And from that, he began to get me involved in some of the maintenance, and that's sort of how I ended up going into that field.
Very good. All right, so let's jump into a little bit about the current pandemic and COVID-19. And one of the things that we're trying to do is understand how different facilities are affected by COVID-19. So just tell us a little bit about the impact of COVID. Tell us a little about what you're making, what your product is, and then how how your production is impacted by COVID-19 at this point.
Sure. The facility here is, rather diversified. We make engineered shapes, so they are from extruded shapes that are made out of titanium, carbon steel, stainless steel, and we make a lot of parts for the airline industry. the other side of that, since we are diversified, we do have a lot of commercial type products that we make. And so we should see an uptick in those as different stimulus packages are coming about, and hopefully the infrastructure bill is signed and will go through Congress, and it gets signed. We'll start seeing a lot of road work and things going on. So we'll see a lot more on that side of the business begin to pick up as well. At least that's our projection. And so the COVID-19 has not really hurt us too bad, because we do actually make some parts for, for companies that are building the ventilators. So there's some parts that we're making there that, deems us to be an essential company. So we were not hit very hard that way. The one thing that I will say about Plymouth, they really care for their employees and their people. And they have really been very cognizant of what is going on around us, and have put in place practices that have been given to us by the CDC. And so there's a lot of those things that have been put in place, and they have really shown a real interest in the safety and the well-being of our people.
Excellent. Tell me a little bit, if I'm a maintenance, if I zoom down into your plant and I'm walking 6 feet apart, but with a maintenance technician, what am I going to see practices different today than I might have, say, 3 months ago or pre-COVID-19?
Really, I don't think we will see a whole lot of difference, other than that they will be wearing a mask.
Okay.
So we have adopted that in the facility to where everyone is wearing the surgical mask, and then we do stay 6 feet apart as much as possible, especially when we're having our MDI walks out on the floor, or different things that we would be doing in a group. Other than that, I don't believe you'll see a whole lot of difference.
So the daily walks and things, you just are observing the more distance, and then where you can. It's one of the things that I'm really interested in understanding is, being a former electrician myself, there's certain times when I'm in a machine, it's going to be pretty hard to stay 6 feet apart from somebody who's grabbing the other side of the, whatever happens to be the motor. And yeah, so I'm curious, understanding how we're dealing as much as possible with that. So we've got masks. What about sanitation in break areas and things like that? Has that been impacted?
Yes, it has. And we actually set up a temporary break room to where we could spread our folks out and not have as many people in one area. So that was a recommendation that was brought down, and we actually turned one of our training rooms into the temporary break room, and we only allow so many people in there. The other thing that we have done is to not overlap our shifts. So we actually allow 5 minutes for one shift to leave the facility, and then 10 minutes later, the next shift that would be coming on would actually enter the building. So that was keeping, helps to keep some of the distance in the way and not have shifts overlapping. We also, with our some of our folks, we are doing a rotation. For example, I'm here this week in the facility, actually in my office right now. But last week and next week, I work from home, and we'll be working from home. And we'll be observing that until, the next foreseeable future, until they begin to lift some of the restrictions and the guidelines. But that's sort of how that we're handling a lot of that.
Okay. Do you think this is going to have a long-term impact on maintenance and reliability, or do you think it's it's the things that we've been doing are just consistent with, how we need to be acting. But or do you think it changes anything in the longer term picture?
Not really. From what I'm seeing in our facility, I don't think that there's going to be a long-term impact, because really from a maintenance and reliability standpoint, we still got to get work done. We still have to ensure that our equipment is running, and we do that in as safe a manner as possible anyway. So I don't really see that there's going to be that big of an impact as far as from a technician's level, but from a supervision and management level, we might see some of the necessity of meetings drop down. We may see more. For example, this time meeting here, we have adopted Zoom meetings ourselves. So we might see some of those things to begin to be utilized in technology, utilized more so that way than, actual physical meetings. But other than that, I don't really see a whole lot of difference.
How about training for your technicians? How do you see the impact in the medium term, anyhow, will be on trying to keep your skills up and that kind of thing?
Right. Now, that is a concern of mine as well, because even with the MRM, you haven't been able to have some of those. And I've got a individual that is actually going through the program that I went through, trying to bring him up through the same ranks. So, getting those type meetings and seminars going again, it's going to be critical. Being able to bring folks into the facility as freely as we used to. Having technicians to come in to do training on specific equipment. So, those are some of the things that will be impacted, the training portion of it.
How about on the opportunity side? Do you think that the current virtual and distancing tool set that's really come to the forefront brings any new opportunities for your maintenance group?
Yeah, I believe that it can, because we have seen a lot of people that have, because of vendors have, instead of making cold calls now and just making the rounds, they are actually putting together some free webinars. And we've been able to look at some of those ourselves, and we'll put together a list of things that we can actually push down to our technicians that I think will be helpful. So those are some of the things that I hope that out of the mother necessity coming around, necessity being the mother invention, or whatever, however that saying goes, you can take that and actually keep those in place and put those in place, where that I think it's a lot more beneficial than just for the companies that are trying to reach out to us as a supplier, that we would be able to utilize those type of training videos, and that would be a lot more beneficial to us a lot of times.
I know for us it's been a really interesting period, because we provide services physically, typically in plant sites, and we've always had some remote and virtual component to what we did, but that has just completely swapped. The virtual is the lead now, and it's been interesting thinking through things from a virtual perspective. We're able to offer certain things you can't when you're flying to a location. We're able to do remote coaching, for example, in small increments for plants that don't lend themselves well to physical plants. We've been doing remote effectiveness assessments of maintenance departments, where we're just pulling data and interviewing people in Zoom and those kinds of things. And it's just been interesting to see how, like you say, necessity is the mother of invention. It just, this whole swing that's happened in our industry as well. So, and that's very interesting. If you could go back 3 months and tell Chuck something that he's about to head into, what advice would you give yourself from about to head into this thing previously?
Well, yeah, I would think that, from that aspect, I would put a little bit more in place as far as um, touching base. How do I, for example, give you one example on our MDI board walkthroughs. We were not able to do those on a regular basis. So I ended up creating a spreadsheet to where that my counterpart or my reliability leader that is off, he's the one rotating with me. So for us to be able to communicate back and forth, I put together a spreadsheet to where that we could track our action items on the MDI boards. And after we put that together, we realized, hey, this is a good way of keeping track of it, and also being able to get our technicians involved as well, because we can give them responsibilities and assign tasks to them that we will keep track of, instead of everything being assigned to us out on the boards. And so if it was me looking back 3 months, I would have some of those things in place to where that we didn't have to do the face-to-face meeting all the time, but we could actually be working within, whether it be a spreadsheet or whether it be a program that you put some of them that are out there that you can use for meeting and tracking project type deals. I would have a little more of that in place.
I think that fits into that, the way opportunities have come from this thing as well, right? You developed this tool because of the constraints that you said, hey, maybe that's a little better than what we were doing in the past. And all of a sudden you're like, if this thing, as it levels out and we get back to a little bit more physical world than we have during this highly, constrained time right now, you might keep that tool in place that you had to create, right? So I think that's, we see a lot of that going on. So I think that's a really good tip to share with, some folks that might watch this later on. And so, and again, we see a very similar environment where many of the things that we're creating, we see leverage we wouldn't have thought of had we not been put in the same circumstance. So hopefully everything continues to open back up and we figure out ways to live with and ultimately defeat the coronavirus. But in the meantime, I think people are being extremely creative and keeping environments moving forward. So any last thoughts for anybody on either the impact or the future, what you see might how things might continue to change, or any thoughts on any specifics on how you're dealing with it in your environment or with Park?
Sure. Yeah, like I said, I don't say that there's going to be a whole lot of difference going forward as far as the way that we do business out on the floor. I mean, we still have got to maintain the equipment. We still have to ensure reliability. The things that we will have to be looking at is continually the practicing the social distancing as much as possible, wearing the proper PPE as much as possible, and then just being aware of where our training levels are for our technicians. Because one of the concerns that I have is, if one of my top technicians were to come down with a situation where they couldn't be here, even though we don't think about it as often as we should, this is making us be a little bit more aware of it. But, I got to put together training plans in place to where that I bring my whole crew up to those levels. And so just being aware of the training, being aware of the skills and talents of our technicians is really the one thing that I'm going to be looking at as we begin to move forward.
Awesome. All right. Well, Chuck, I greatly appreciate you spending some time with us and the folks that watch in on this little video, and wish you and your team be safe, be successful, and certainly encourage you to thrive in this chaos that we've got going on around us. And
Right.
all right. Well, thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate the opportunity again.
All right. Take care.